We have some unfortunate news for you guys. Sorry.
She's like a mini leopard tortoise.
Because this is by far the most common, abundant, unwanted, and abandoned tortoise species across the world.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. I bought her from Florida, Central Florida, 2005 for my son. So what does that make? And she was just...
She's 19.
Yeah.
She's 19? Wow. 19 years
She's a
old.
lady. But she moves. She can really move fast.
Wow. But what's her name again?
Jojo.
Jojo.
Yeah.
Jojo the
boy.
leopard tortoise.
It's a funny story. It was a boy, we thought. So we named, my son named him, he was like 8, named him Jojo.
Yeah.
And then he was in, he went to tech school in Delhi, and they said, oh, you can, and he had his tortoise with him.
Yeah.
And he said, you can bring your animals, then we're going to do some, we're going to show you some x-ray. And they x-rayed Jojo and said, guess what? Jojo has eggs inside of him.
Oh, wow.
So that's how we found out Jojo was a girl.
She's cool. She's a little thing, too.
She's small.
Yeah. Yeah, she's a little, I mean, you know, leopard tortoises have a really wide range of sizes.
Right.
You know, like there's the monster ones that come from South Africa
those
and
big
also
ones, right.
like Ethiopia. And then you've got some that get as big as she does and then in between. But she's, I mean, at 19 years old and she's been reproductive. She is small for an adult. That's pretty cool to see. She's cruising too. Look at her. She's really cruising.
Oh, this is really great to see her like that. You know, this is emotional, and she's going to be so happy. Yeah, I can tell her. She's heading to the road.
Moving. Let's see her. Hey, Jojo. She's like a brick.
Yeah, she's really heavy.
Like a cinder block.
Really heavy, yeah. So she looks healthy to you?
Oh yeah, she looks so healthy.
Oh, great. We did a good job.
She's like a mini leopard tortoise. But you know, throughout the range of all of these species, you've got giant ones, you've got really small ones. It happens with the Herman's tortoises, the Greeks, even the redfoots, you know, because they stopped. I don't know what year it was. I think it was sometime in the 90s, maybe early 2000s, that they stopped the importation of leopard tortoises entirely because of the African ticks that were found on them, and they were causing heartwater disease. So they stopped the importation of them. It was, I can't remember, it was earliest 90s, latest like early 2000s. And you know, because they used to import the adult leopard and sulcata tortoises straight from Africa all the time.
Right.
And then they just stopped it once they discovered the heartwater disease with the ticks that were coming in. And so they were, you know, back then they would pull the tortoises from all different localities in Africa.
Right.
So she could have just come from one that was smaller.
2005.
And I remember you, when we spoke on the phone, you told me a little bit about where she came from. What was the name of the farm she came from?
Central Florida Reptile Farm.
Okay. Yeah, wow, look at that.
Yeah, look what we paid for it back then.
Wow. When I was a kid, you know, I would just sit on my dad's computer and just go check out Central Florida Reptile Farm and other places that would sell them.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, so you've been into this since you were a kid?
Oh yeah. Yeah, 5 years old, playing in.
He was on like mailing lists and stuff. You couldn't find anything on the internet.
Yeah, look at that. Yeah. You know, but it's cool. And, you know, leopard tortoises do not eat fruit. That's cool.
Yeah, they gave us all these rules because we had no idea.
But that's all, I'm sure, outdated now, right?
Yeah.
Fruit is bad for them.
Fruit is bad.
Yeah, they're not fruit eaters. It's they're
Sometimes we
opportunistic.
give her a strawberry here and here.
That's
and there.
okay. You know, any species of turtle or tortoise is going to be opportunistic. You know, they're going to come across something that tastes good and they're going to try it out. They'll even eat dead animals, you know.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they will.
Yeah, she has eaten a worm before.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yep. She's so cool. A little mini leopard tortoise.
Yeah, I'm glad you appreciate her so much.
And this is great too, to have history, vet certificate on her. You know, you don't get that stuff all the time. They did a great job here.
She's cute. She's really smart.
You guys have probably seen in other videos where I actually talk about how leopard tortoises on average can be very shy and not the most outgoing tortoise species. Jojo has made me out to be a liar.
Oh my God.
Gosh.
Imagine she was this big in the house.
Oh,
wow, that is so weird.
Yeah, that's Tembo and that's Savannah. They're both girls.
You're huge.
Oh my gosh. Look.
So they get active later in the day.
In the spring, they tend to become active later in the day because that's when it's warmer. In the summer, they'll get it out in the
How
morning.
old are they?
2007 and 2008.
Wow,
she's older
than
Yeah.
that. My God.
It's a true mini.
Funny.
That's cool.
Do you think it's because she was indoors?
She doesn't look deformed or anything to me. You know, she's obviously got a little bit of the pyramiding on the
Yeah, she
carapace,
does.
but that's
Yeah, I can
nothing
see
compared
that.
to like what we've had
Right,
with like truly
right.
deformed ones.
Right,
And even them, you know, they were pretty much kept exclusively outdoors where they came from, and they're got a little bit of lumpiness, you know.
Yeah.
But even wild leopard tortoises do. You know, they're not all bowling ball smooth.
right.
So, you know, I think it, judging by her strength, her stamina, and her weight, and I mean, that shell is solid bone. There's nothing
it's
pliable
really
to
solid,
it.
Yeah.
I think it might be that she just comes from a lineage that
Yeah,
is
it's
smaller
small.
animals.
So this is JoJo, our brand new leopard tortoise that just got brought here. And she really is small. Really interesting to see. As you guys know, the leopard tortoise is in fact the 4th largest tortoise species on planet Earth. And a lot of you have even had some questions about the Asian forest tortoises, the Manoria species, the Burmese blacks and browns, because certain literature may cite that they are the 4th largest species. Now, while the leopard tortoise actually is considered the 4th largest, this right here is proof of the variation in size that can be found really across the board for any tortoise species. I will say it does look like JoJo has some fresh growth lines. Tortoises do tend to grow throughout their lives, so she may get a little bit larger, but at 19 years of age already, I don't think she's gonna get much bigger than this. She has some pyramiding of the shell. It's nothing really significant in my opinion. We've seen way worse. Some overgrown nails back here. That's from living indoors. We'll get those in check. But once she comes out of quarantine, she'll get to share the big natural pen with the other leopard tortoises, and she's a really sweet, interesting addition to Garden State Tortoise. She's a little bit spooked right now. She was very outgoing before, but you know, things are changing for her, and that's a big deal to a tortoise because they are in fact creatures of habit. So I won't mess with her any longer. She is very healthy. Her veterinary certificate also confirms that, and I'm going to just let her get used to life here at GST. All right, so speaking of leopard tortoises, we have some unfortunate news for you guys. If you recall Bubbles, the malnourished, deformed leopard tortoise that was as flat as a pancake, who was suffering from severe metabolic bone disease, unfortunately did pass away just a few days ago. Bubbles really had a rough life, kept in a box with nothing at all to even interest her. She had nothing but a household bulb on her, fed a completely improper diet. But when we took her to our vet, it was decided that we should give her a shot because she was showing some promise. We don't really think Bubbles was in any pain. She ate up until last minute. Just a couple days ago, Casey was hand feeding her, and she unfortunately passed in this pen right here. What was really kind of moving was this tortoise spent its entire life this tortoise spent its entire life in a box, never got to go outside, nothing. Really, truly neglected. And we tried to give her as natural of a life as we could here. Just really a terrible situation that she was in. And she got to enjoy her last day kind of by accident. And it was supposed to be a really cold, unseasonably nasty day. It ended up being 75 and sunny, picture perfect. Bubbles just seemed to peacefully pass away that day. She was underneath a bush, just kind of fell asleep, did not wake up, but she went out getting to experience the sun, which is what tortoises are supposed to get. They're sun lovers. They are programmed by the sun. They should be outside every single chance that can be given to them. And although we couldn't save Bubbles in the end, we believe that her last few days, her last few months here were far better than anything she had ever experienced. So it's also really funny how Bubbles left us, but JoJo just came into our life. JoJo is obviously in far better condition than Bubbles was, and you could tell that she was truly loved. So I know this is really sad, heavy news. I know a lot of you were rooting for her and pulling for her, and her story was really getting out there. But her story doesn't have to end, okay? Don't get a pet if you cannot completely provide for it and have a plan in place for when things could go wrong for either you or your living situation or whatever. So keep that in your minds, all right? Share that information with people that might come to you and say, hey, I'm thinking about getting a tortoise. Be like, well, you know what? You should really look into it, really do your homework. You know, they're not something you can just push to the side and expect it to just fend for itself. So here's the bubbles. Happy trails. Man, happy trails. You're in a better place now, and seriously, get that word out there, guys. Share that information with as many people as you can, that any animal deserves the absolute best. Well, it's not all negative. We're gonna actually put this pen that Bubbles was in to good use, and we're gonna use it for our sulcata tortoises, because like leopard tortoises, sulcatas are a grassland species and they need to graze. Now right now the sulcatas do have a pretty good sized pen. It's actually a really long run with a cold frame / greenhouse. They have a nice deep tunnel that we showed you guys that they dug last year, but now they're gonna be able to open up into an even larger area and utilize everything to themselves. And of course, this will eventually be bare like the vast majority of the pen they're in now. So I'm gonna pry this thing apart and then use a Sawzall to cut it down, and all we're doing is just opening this up so that they can come right out. Just broke the blade on my Sawzall. Such a fine piece of equipment. Sulcata tortoise, also known as the African spur-thighed tortoise, is of course the world's third largest tortoise species. The only two ahead of it are the Galapagos and the Aldabra. Now this species, which comes from Africa, is actually endangered in its native Africa. It competes with livestock, similar to Maggie May over here, for precious savanna or grasslands, and you know, other normal threats that we see facing all turtles and tortoises across the globe also threaten this animal in the wild. But that really heavily contrasts the situation with them in captivity, because this is by far the most common, abundant, unwanted, and abandoned tortoise species across the world when it comes to the pet trade. These animals get massive. Dixie here, our female, weighs around 70 pounds, which is large for a female, but there's even bigger than this. And they can, of course, dig very, very deep burrows. Dixie and Morby here have an 8-foot-plus burrow that they dug last year, which they are using again this year, so that's a plus. They haven't decided to dig a new one. And it's a major challenge for a lot of people. And it's unfortunate because these really are awesome tortoises. We're the ones that have made them this common in the pet trade. These tortoises have big, bold personalities. A lot of times it's the males that are super aggressive and wanting to bulldoze through things. But Morby here, who's yawning right now, that is adorable. Look at that. Morby here is an absolute sweetheart. It's actually Dixie, our female, that'll ram you and try to knock you over for food. But they're just warming up for the day, and this is exciting because this pen is gonna go to good use here. These two will get to mow it down in Bubbles' memory. Sulcata tortoises are awesome, but you have to be prepared for them. So the next time you go to a pet store or you're shopping somewhere on a reptile classified, or you go to a reptile show and you see those cute little babies, remember, this is what they turn into.